All right, good morning, folks. We've got day 150, Blue Letter Bible app, Bible in a Year. And we are reading directly from the center of the Bible, like the dead center of the Bible. Psalm 119, okay? Something you want to know about when we're reading this today is that Psalm 119 is about thy laws and statutes, thy commandments. All right? That's the covenant given at Horeb. That's how it's explained in Deuteronomy, the covenant given in Horeb. All thou desireth from thy law, thy God in Horeb. And then Deuteronomy 5:22, after he gets done giving them the 10 commandments, he says, he added no more. Okay? Then Moses comes down the hill back to the people at Horeb, or at the base of Sinai there. They were not to touch that mountain. It's off in the distance. And they were worshiping the golden calf. Well, they were worshiping Jehovah with a golden calf, right after he told them not to do that. And he was very angry. And then he heaped on them the schoolmaster, as Paul calls it, the schoolmaster, or the law of sin and death, where they have to sacrifice animals and everything. You can tell it, Jeremiah 7, verse 22 and through 24, God never wanted or spoke of the animals, the sacrifices of animals for sin until they had done that. That's what it says, Jeremiah 24. There was offerings and stuff, but he never heaped on them the schoolmaster. Also, I think it's Isaiah 20. He talks about that too. The difference between these two things. What makes it super heavy is that everybody confounds, and we're taught that the 10 Commandments, the Holy Covenant, is just lumped in with those laws that were only here until the seed should come. That we know in Galatians 3, verse 19, that those laws were added after transgressions, that's Galatians 3:19, until the seed should come. Okay? But it is the doctrine of, I'll say, the church at large, to confound those two things and put them together, and then they throw the baby out with the bathwater. All right, Yasmin. Good morning, Yasmin. Hello. So so when I'm talking about in this, or when David is telling us, he's telling us about the commandments, the way we would walk in. And if they just did that, they would not have had the schoolmaster. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of Jehovah. They are blessed that keep his testimonies and that seek him with a whole heart. They also do no iniquity. They walk in his ways. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently, and to diligently teach our children those precepts. That's loving God with all your heart, all your soul, all your might. That's Deuteronomy 6, verse 5 and 6 and 7, right through to Deuteronomy 9. Thou that keep my ways, directed to keep thy statutes, then thou shalt not be ashamed. Then I have the respect unto all thy commandments. I will praise thee with an upright heart. Then I shall have learned thy righteous judgments. I will keep thy statutes, forsake me not utterly. Wherewithal a young man cleanses his way, taking heed thereto according to thy word. Thy word, thy word is the word that they heard. With my whole heart I have sought thee. Let me not wander from thy commandments. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. Blessed art thou, O Jehovah. Teach me thy statutes. Verse 13. With my lips I have declared all judgments of thy mouth. I have rejoiced in the way of thy testimonies, as much in all the riches. I will meditate in thy precepts and have respect unto thy ways. I will delight myself in thy statutes. I will not forget thy word. Deal bountifully with thy servant, that I may live and keep thy word. Open thou mine eyes, and that I might behold wondrous things out of thy law. I am a stranger in the earth. Hide not thy commandments from me. Hide not thy commandments from me. What's he say in Psalm 51? Take your spirit not from me. My soul breaketh for the longing that it hath into his judgment at all times. Thou hast rebuked the proud that are cursed, and do err from thy commandments. People do not like to be rebuked about that. Riz Monkey, good morning, good morning. Oh, okay, yeah. Thou rebukest the proud that are cursed, which do err from thy commandments. Remove from me the reproach and the contempt, for I have kept thy testimonies. You know, all these years when I didn't know, you could have asked me in, say, 2016, you know, and I'm going to church and I'm doing all these things that I think is how we're supposed to do it, you know, and I'm making my tithes. And if you would have asked me, and I would have been keeping the commandments. I would have thought I was keeping the commandments. Then I started reading the whole Bible all the way through. It's quite humbling when you go, oh man, I am way off the mark. Way off the mark. That's a sin. You know, it's like, oh man, oh man. Princes also did sit and speak against me, but thy servants did meditate in thy statutes. Thy testimonies also are my delight and my counselors. My soul cleaveth unto the dust. Quicken thou me according to thy word. I have declared my ways, and thou heardest me. Teach me thy statutes. Make me to understand the way of thy precepts, so I shall walk in of thy wondrous works. Man, oh man, if we read John, okay? If we read John 14 right here, check this out. It's just saying, hey, read John 14 real quick here. Just going to go to John 14. John 14. Whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If ye shall ask anything in my name, his name is Yehovah, I will do it. Anything in Yeshua's name, I will do it. If you love me, keep my commandments. What should we be praying for? What's he praying for right here? He's praying that he keeps his commandments, that God teaches him his statutes. And then what happens? What happens? And I will pray to the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide in you forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him, but ye know him, and he dwelt with you as he shall be in you. Okay? So if you pray, like David is praying here, to understand his commandments, and I keep thy commandments, that's how you get the Spirit of truth, folks. If you believe the Bible, it says it right there. Make me to understand the way of thy precepts, so I shall walk. So I shall talk of thy wondrous works. So I shall talk of thy wondrous works. so that you share those talents. My soul melteth for heaviness and strength. Thou, according to unto thy word, remove me from the way of lying, and grant me thy law graciously. I have chosen the way of truth. Thy judgments I have laid before me. I have struck onto thy testimonies, O Jehovah. Put me not to shame. I will run the way of the commandments when thou shalt enlarge my heart. Yesterday we read of the perfect heart. The perfect heart. And the day before, the perfect heart was in all those Psalms. And then he prays that Solomon have a perfect heart like his. Have a perfect heart unto the Lord, unto Jehovah. Teach me, O Jehovah, the way of thy statutes, and I shall keep them unto the end. Okay, his holy covenant is everlasting and forever. And we throw it out. We are in grave and serious error right now, as the doctrines of every church out there. Make to me the path of thy commandments, for thee I do I delight. Incline my heart unto thy testimonies, and not to covetousness. Turn my eyes away from beholding vanity, and quicken me in thy way. Establish thy word unto thy servant who is devoted to thy fear. The fear of Jehovah is the beginning of wisdom. Turn away my reproach, which I fear, for thy judgments are good. Behold, I have longed after thy precepts. Quicken me in thy righteousness. The righteousness is following his commandments, not making up our own, like I was doing with my, I go to church every Sunday and I tithe and I at the same time I'm just sinning left and right. I didn't even know it. You don't know it until a preacher comes and preaches it. Until you pick up the book. And with a humble heart, you can hear it. If you have pride and you do not take correction, you are in trouble. Trouble. So shall I have wherewith the answers that him that reproacheth me. For I trust in thy word, and take not the word of truth out of my mouth, for I have hoped in thy judgments. So shall I keep the law continually forever and ever. And I will walk at liberty and seek thy precepts. I will walk at liberty and seek thy precepts. Right now, I have been told, because I tell people that they need to keep God's commandments, not this whole 613 laws, his 10 commandments. Okay, and then have a perfect heart. I've been told I put a burden of the law on people. I've been told that by pastors. This is where we're at, folks. That's a sign of the end is near. Okay? Let's see what James says about liberty here. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, continueth therein, being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. The law of liberty. What does God say before he gives us commandments and when he talks about his 10 commandments? I brought you out of Egypt, out of bondage, on eagle's wings. If you listen to my voice and obey my precepts, you will be a peculiar people, a nation of kings and priests. The law of liberty. And I will see and I will walk at liberty, for I seek thy precepts. Verse 46. I will speak of thy testimonies also before kings and not be ashamed. And I will delight myself in thy commandments which I have loved. My hands will also lift up unto thy commandments which I loved, and I will meditate in thy statutes. Remember the word unto thy servant, upon which thou hast caused me to hope. This is my comfort in my affliction, for thy word hath quickened me. The proud have had me greatly in derision, and I have yet not declined from thy law. I remember thy judgments of old, O Jehovah, and have comforted myself. Horror hath taken a hold upon me because of the wicked that forsake thy law. Thy statutes have been my songs in my house and of my pilgrimage. I have remembered thy name, O Jehovah. In the night I have kept thy law. And because I have kept thy precepts, thou art my portion. O Jehovah, I have said I would keep thy words. I entreated thy favor with my whole heart. Be merciful unto me according to thy word. I thought on my ways and turned my feet unto thy testimonies. I made haste and delayed not to keep thy commandments. The bands of the wicked have robbed me, but I have not forgotten thy law. At midnight I will rise to give thanks unto thee because of thy righteous judgments. I am a companion of all them that fear thee, of them that keep thy precepts. O earth, O Jehovah is full of thy mercy. Teach me thy statutes. Thou hast dwelt well with the servants, O Jehovah, according to thy word. Teach me good judgment and knowledge, for I have believed thy commandments. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I have kept thy word. Thou art good and doest good. The proud have forged a lie against me, but I will keep thy precepts with my whole heart. Their heart is as fat. That means they don't hear. Their heart is fat as grease, but I delight in thy law. It is good for me that I have been afflicted, that I might learn thy statutes. The law of my mouth is better unto me than thousands of gold and silver. Thy hands have made me fashion and give me understanding that I may learn thy commandments. They that fear thee will be glad when they see me, because I have hoped in thy word. I know, Jehovah, that thy judgments are right, and that thou in faithfulness has afflicted me. Let, I pray these, thy merciful kindness for my comfort, according to thy word, thy servant. Let thy tender mercies unto me, that I may live. For thy law is my delight. Let the proud be ashamed, for they dealt perversely with me without cause, but I will meditate in thy precepts. Let those that fear thee turn unto me, and those that have known thy testimonies. Let my heart be sound in thy statutes, and that I not be ashamed. My soul fainteth for my salvation, but I hope in thy word. My eyes fail for thy word, saying, when wilt thou comfort me? For I am become like a bottle of smoke, yet I do not forget thy statutes. How many are the days of thy servant? When wilt thou execute judgment on them that persecute me? The proud have digged pits for me, which they are not after thy law. The proud are not after his law. For sure they're not. What does Daniel say in Daniel 12? Daniel 12, but they talk about the very end times. Those that preach righteousness, those that teach many righteousness will be shine like the stars in the firmament. Not our righteousness, his righteousness. There's a difference, big difference. All thy commandments are faithful. They persecute me wrongfully. Help me, thou me. They had almost consumed me upon earth, but I forsake not thy precepts. Quicken me after my loving kindness, so I shall keep the testimony of my mouth. Forever, Jehovah, thy word has settled in heaven. Thy faithfulness is unto all generations. Thou hast established the earth and it abideth. They continue this day according to thine ordinances, for they are all thy servants. So what does this, that tells you who his servants are. His servants will have a characteristic that's not like other people. One of them is they continue this day according to thine ordinances, for they are thy servants. Unless they have been my delight, then I should have been perished in my affliction. I will never forget thy precepts, for with them thou hast quickened me. I am thine, save me, for I have sought thy precepts. The wicked have waited for me to destroy. The wicked have waited for me to destroy me, but I will consider thy testimonies. I have seen the end of all perfection, but thy commandments is exceeding broad. How I love thy law. It is my meditation all the day. Thou hast thy commandments, hast made me wiser than my enemies, for they are ever with me. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation. Yeah. My old teachers would tell me, you're putting you're putting the children under a burden. And I say, you might want to read Jeremiah 23 at the very end. Do not say burden of Jehovah. Do not say burden of the Lord. Do not say burden of the Lord. It says it like 8 times in a row, 7, 8 times in a row. Do not say that. He's warning people. What they're doing is the whole reason you get that second comforter that I was telling you about in the beginning when I read John 14. The whole reason for the second comforter is that you can preach that righteousness. I have refined my feet. So, in doing so, what are they doing? They're blaspheming the Holy Spirit, which we know from Matthew 12 is a bad thing to do. I have refrained my feet from every evil way that I might keep thy word. I have not departed from thy judgments, for thou hast taught me. How sweet are thy words unto my taste, yea, sweeter than honey to the mouth. Through my precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way. The word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. So when you go and you preach that word to people, you're going to understand why Yeshua, the Son of God, came and said they're going to hate you because they hated me. When you go to preach that, you're shining the light on people. And they are going to want to put a basket over your lamp. I have sworn and I will perform it, and I will keep thy righteous judgments. I am afflicted very much. Quicken me, O Jehovah, according to thy word. I accept, I beseech thee, my free will offerings of my mouth. That's what the daily sacrifice is here. Now, what is that? Hebrews 12 is it is of communication. You're supposed to be my brother's keeper. I'm supposed to be your keeper. Your brother's keeper. Loving thy neighbor as thyself. The verse before that is, you hate your brother if you do not rebuke his sin and you let the sin suffer upon him. You hate him if you do not rebuke his sin. And it says, don't bear a grudge. Don't bear a grudge. That's loving thy neighbor as thyself. I am Jehovah. That's Leviticus 19, verse 17 and 18. Matthew 22, he was asked by a lawyer, what are the 2 great commandments in the law? Telling you guys, we are way, way off base. My soul continueth in my hand, and yet I do not forget thy law. The wicked have laid a snare for me, yet I erred not from thy precepts. Thy testimonies I have taken as a heritage forever, for they are the rejoicing of my heart. I have inclined my heart to perform thy statutes always, even to the end. I hate vain thoughts, but thy law I do love. Thou art my hiding place and my shield. I hope in thy word. Depart from me, ye evildoers, for I keep the commandments of my God. Uphold me according to thy word, that I may live. Let me not be ashamed of my hope. Hold thou me up, and I shall be safe, and I will have respect unto thy statutes continually. Thou hast trodden down all of them that err from thy statutes, for their deceit is falsehood. Thou puttest away all the wicked of the earth like dross. Therefore I love thy testimonies. My flesh trembleth for fear of thee, and I am afraid of thy judgments. I have done judgment and justice. Do not leave me not to my oppressors. For surety they are servants for good. Let not the proud oppress me. My eyes fail for thy salvation. My eyes fail for thy salvation and for thy righteousness. Deal with thy servant according to thy mercy, and teach me thy statutes. I am thy servant. Give me understanding that I may know thy testimonies. It is time for thee, Jehovah, to work, for they have made void the law. Therefore I love thy commandments above gold, yea, above fine gold. Therefore I esteem all thy precepts concerning all things to be right, and I hate every false way. Every false way. Once saved, always saved. Every false way. Not listening to Deuteronomy 12 and doing feasts outside of Jerusalem. Yeah, I made that mistake. And then I got into it for like almost 2 years. Then I read Deuteronomy 12 and I'm like, what are we doing? Why aren't we listening to this? Deuteronomy 12 says, do not do those feasts. Do not do those feasts outside of Jerusalem. Over and over again it says it. Thy testimonies are wonderful. You know what it says? Don't get caught up in this. Get your tail out there and start warning the people. Be thy brother's keeper. Love thy brother as thyself. That's where we do not want him to suffer the sin upon him. The entrance of thy words giveth light, understanding unto the simple. I opened my mouth and panted, for I long for thy commandments. Look thou upon me and be merciful unto me, as thou usest unto those that love thy name, his name, that love his name. His name is Jehovah. Order my steps in thy word, and let not thy iniquity have dominion over me. Deliver me from the oppression of man, so I will keep thy precepts. The oppression of man, so I will keep thy precepts. Because it's what? It's the law of liberty. Make thy face to shine upon thy servant, and teach me thy statutes. Rivers of water run down my eyes, because they keep not the law. What's Paul say? I think it's in Acts 20. Day and night, in tears, because I continually am warning the people. Something like that. Righteousness art thou, O Jehovah. Upright are thy judgments. Thy testimonies that thou hast commanded are righteousness and very faithful. My zeal has consumed me. You know, Paul had to teach people the difference between the Holy Covenant, these 10 commandments, and doing what is pleasing to the Father, and the law of sin and death, which the men from Judea just wanted to cling to. Okay? So many of the people at those synagogues that Paul went to just wanted to cling to that law of sin and death. They just wanted to keep killing those bulls and goats. They couldn't give that up. So they wouldn't even just hear the difference. Even though you could go to Jeremiah 7, 22 to 24. Or you could go read Isaiah 20. Or you could read, hear, and understand David. And what God's looking for is that perfect heart. Poor and contrite spirit that trembleth at his word. I cried with my whole heart, hear me, O Jehovah, I will keep thy statutes. I cried unto thee, save me, and I shall keep thy testimonies. I prevented the drawing of the morning and cried and hoped in thy word. My eyes prevent thy night watches, that I might meditate on thy word. Hear my voice according unto thy loving kindness. O Jehovah, quicken me according to thy judgment. They draw nigh that follow me after mischief. They are far from the law. Thou art near, O Jehovah, and all thy commandments are truth. Concerning thy testimonies I have known of old that thou hast founded them forever. Concerning thy testimonies, I have known of old that thou hast founded them forever. The testimonies I have known of old. Okay. He tells Abraham to be perfect. That's Genesis 17, verse 1. Be perfect. Okay, then later on, a few chapters later, Abraham walks in his, keeps his commandments, keeps his judgments and statutes. So Abraham knew the deal. Thou art, O Jehovah, and all thy commandments are truth. Concerning thy testimonies, I have known from the old thou hast founded them forever. Consider my affliction and deliver me, for I do not get thy law. Plead my cause and deliver me. Quicken me according to thy word. Salvation, Yeshua, is far from the wicked, for they seek not thy statutes. Yeshua is far from the wicked, for they seek not thy statutes. Salvation is far from the wicked, for they seek not thy statutes. Okay. They have made up their own Savior, who's done away with the Ten Commandments, whose birthday is on Christmas like every pagan sun god, who reckons and celebrates a day to the equinox, a fertility ritual in the spring with Easter bunnies. Learn not the way of the heathen. People have been sold to fake. They haven't been sold that Deuteronomy 18 prophet with a capital P, prophet. I'm going to send my son, and he is going to speak the words I tell him to. According to all thou desirest, the Lord thy God in Horeb. In the day of the assembly, when you saw the midst of the fire, and I remembered my friend Abraham. Great are thy tender mercies, O Jehovah, quicken me according to thy judgments. Many are my persecutors and my enemies, yet I do not decline from thy testimonies. I beheld the transgressor and was grieved because they kept not thy word. It's grieving to know this. The people just will not hear it. Consider how I love thy precepts and quicken me, O Jehovah. You know, when Peter spoke of this in Acts 3, verse 19 through 26, Acts 3, 19 through 26, when Peter spoke of that, I stopped what I was doing. I heard it. I was like, what did he just say? So I had to go where he was quoting, and he was quoting Moses, and I had to go and quote that. And okay, that's God talking right there, boom, through Moses. And then you're like, oh man, I got to go tell people. And when you tell people, and I'm not talking about people that don't read the Bible, I'm talking about people that read the Bible. Well, guess what? It's going to separate them from their apostate church. They don't want to hear it. Consider how I love thy precepts. Quicken me, O Jehovah, according to thy loving kindness. Thy word is true from the beginning. Every one of thy righteous judgments endureth forever. Endureth forever. Forever is 2 words. If you search it in the KJV, you can go forever and put quotes around it and just check out those verses. Princes have persecuted me without cause, but my heart standeth in awe of thy word. Okay, so there's one law, one set of his instructions, his 10 commandments, his holy covenant that went under the mercy seat. Then there was the book of the law that went beside the ark until it is finished. That's Deuteronomy 31, until it is finished. What did Yeshua say on the cross? It is finished. He's talking about the book of the law. It's a direct quote. Princes have persecuted me without a cause, but my heart standeth in awe of thy word. I rejoice at thy word, as one that findeth great spoil. I hate and abhor lying, but thy law I love. 7 times a day I do praise thee because of thy righteous judgments. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. Jehovah, have hope for thy salvation, and done thy commandments. Jehovah, I have hoped for thy Yeshua, and done thy commandments. My soul hath kept thy testimonies, and I love them exceedingly. I have kept thy precepts and thy testimonies, for all my ways are before thee. Let me cry, come near before Jehovah. Give me understanding according to thy word. Let my supplication come before thee. Deliver me according to my word. My lips shall utter praise when thou hast taught me thy statutes. My tongue shall speak thy word, for thy commandments are righteousness. For thy commandments are righteousness. There is the definition you can use for righteousness throughout this book. His commandments, those 10. If you do those 10, you will be doing all the rest of the ones. You won't even have to think about it. Let thy hand help me, for I have chosen thy precepts. When I fell into the Torah movement for a couple years, it was always, oh, does this one count now? Oh, does that count now? Oh, is this? Oh, is that? Okay, you have to be a lawyer. If you just obey the 10 and you tell others that daily sacrifice of communication, you love thy brother as thyself by rebuking the sin so he doesn't go to hell. If you do that, you don't question what you're supposed to do. You're on autopilot. It's the most freeing thing ever. Let thy hand help me, for I have chosen thy precepts. I have longed for thy salvation. I have longed for Yeshua. O Jehovah, and thy law is my delight. Let my soul live, and it shall praise thee. Let thy judgments help me. I have gone astray like a lost sheep. I've gone astray like a lost sheep. Seek thy servant, for I do not forget thy commandments. Who is Yeshua going after? The lost sheep of the house of Israel. Israel was scattered into the Gentiles for not obeying his commandments. Israel is the 10 tribes to the north that were completely obliterated and taken into bondage and sold throughout the world into slavery, or they just went on the run. And they were scattered across Egypt, across Asia, in through Europe, heck, maybe even out to the Americas. They find old ancient Hebrew writings in caves in America. Well, Deuteronomy tells us they're going to be scattered. Then, sure enough, they get scattered. That's 2 Kings 2. Why do they get scattered? Because of the sins of Jeroboam. 2 Kings 11, 12, and on. It just kept going on. They kept in the sins of Jeroboam. What's that? They feasted outside of Jerusalem. They just made up their own dates. Oh, we're going to do it on January 25th. And then 40 days after the first full moon after the equinox. They just make up their own days. They'll assign any old Tom, Dick, or Harry to be a priest. Anybody be a priest, yeah. As long as you're Jeroboam's buddy. Sacrificed in the high places, that's the churches, places of worship. They brought in their green trees next to the altars. Sacrificed children. Poured their blood on eggs in their little fertility rituals. Yeah. They did that at Megiddo. The Tel at Megiddo. The altar's still there. If you go to Israel, that's one of the places you'll stop. At the Tel of Megiddo, where the tribe of Manasseh, one of the 10 tribes of the house of Israel, was doing child sacrifices. When I was there, I didn't know enough to know that it was like those are the actual tribes were doing it. I thought it was the heathens that they put out. That's how dumb I was when I was there. I had not the knowledge of God because I didn't read my Bible enough. I didn't obey the commandments. I didn't have the spirit of truth. What a freaking waste of life. I was in sin and I didn't even know it. Till one day somebody rebuked me. They said, man, you're not even supposed to talk about work on the Sabbath. And I said, man, that still applies. I thought that to myself. I didn't really say it out loud. I was about ready to say something. I was about ready to what? But I just shut up. The Spirit of grace. Spirit of grace grabbed my tongue. Well, you know what the Spirit of grace is? That's that's Titus 2. Titus 2, verse 11 and 12. It's that Spirit of grace teaches you to deny ungodliness and to live righteously and soberly. It goes on to say, zealous for his good works. His good works are obeying the Ten Commandments, folks, that we just read about. How are people not hearing this? How can you read the Psalms? I can tell you why. God gives us over to a debased mind. God puts us in a strong delusion when we love the lie. That's 2 Thessalonians 2. They that love the lie. Because I can tell you, it's not popular when I tell people this. I love you guys. Those that stuck, the 3 people that stuck around to the end, that is Psalms 119. And it to me, it's telling me that's the prayer. That is the prayer that we pray that John 14, verse 14 is talking about. Okay, you pray to God. And then Yeshua will pray to God for you on your behalf, and you'll get the second comforter, and that's the comforter, that's the Spirit of truth. You can go to keep on reading to John John 16 tells us that that second comforter is here for a reason. And that's to rebuke the world of righteousness and judgment and sin. I think it's sin, righteousness, and judgment. That's what it's for. And if you don't use it, you don't get many more talents after that. If you just bury that talent, it departs from you. And that's why David in Psalm 51 just says, "Don't let your spirit depart from me," because he had done such bad things. He had done such a bad thing. He did such a bad thing. He tried to cover it up, and he just dug his hole and dug his hole and dug his hole, and then he was just crying out to God, "Do not let your spirit depart from me. Do not let your spirit depart from me." That's a poor and contrite heart. God recognized it was still in David, and he kept his. That didn't mean he stopped screwing up. He screwed up again, and he counted the people, and he had to pay for that one. He paid for those sins by his family being pretty much destroyed. His family got wrecked. Absalom, his son, gets killed when his son gets wicked and tries to take over the kingdom. And then his son gets killed. And David knows it's his fault. All right, guys, I'm rambling. I love you. I'll talk to you later.